This is from the Constitution Act of Canada, 1867. It is what the foundation of Canada is supposed to be built on, and it describes the legal and lawful powers that the Parliament is claiming, or so-called claiming. Article 91. It shall be lawful for the Queen. Now notice that they stated that it should be lawful for the Queen, and with the advice of consent of the Senate and House of Commons, to make laws for the peace, order, and good government of Canada, in relation to all matters not coming within the classes of subjects by this Act, assigned exclusively to the legislators of the province. Then they will begin to name the subjects. The public debt and property, so they have the right to make laws concerning that. The regulation of trade and commerce, so they have the right to make regulations and statutes concerning that. Unemployment insurance, so they have the right to make regulation and statutes concerning that. And we just keep on going. You'll see the big list. Military, the census, borrowing of money, beacons, buoys, lighthouse, navigation and ships, seacoasts, currency and coinage, banking, incorporation of banks and the issue of paper money, saving banks, bills of exchange and promissory notes, bankruptcy, patents, copyrights, marriage and divorce, the criminal law, and just keeps on going on. So this is the list of what the Parliament of Canada, the legislators, will be making for acts and regulations, the laws. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Article 32. This charter applies to the Parliament and Government of Canada in respect of all matters within the authority of Parliament, including all matters relating to Yukon. B. To the legislator and government of each province in respect of all matters within the authority of the legislator of each province. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Article 32. It states that this charter applies to the government, and to the legislators of the acts, statutes, and regulations. So, the government and the legislators who make the law, they're supposed to follow the charter, what the charter describes, what the rules that the charter sets out. Now, they have to follow the charter in respect of all matters. It's worded like that, all matters, within the authority of the legislator. So, the legislator will make a statute or a regulation for driving, for example. Now, within that statute or regulation for driving, Highway Safety Code, Highway Safety Act, the charter is supposed to apply to that regulation that has been enacted and given force of law. Now we follow into the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Article 33. It says that the Parliament and the legislator, they may declare, they may put into action an act, a regulation, or a statute that shall have the effect of being legally binding upon your legal person, okay? And they can make these acts, these laws, and these regulations notwithstanding Section 2 or 7 to 15 of the Charter itself. So in Section 2, 7, and 15, you're going to find your everyone. You're going to find your human expression, your man or your woman, being allowed to express its freedom in there. But what they're saying here in Article 33 is they're saying that the Parliament or the legislator now can prescribe your freedom. They can take away your rights through an operation of law. And they're saying that in the act or the regulation, they can take away your rights that are available in Articles 2, 7 to 15 by invoking a notwithstanding clause. So they'll say that this act and this regulation, it will bind you up, it is legal upon you, even though you have the right to operate through freedom because of the charter. Now, at that point, it's up to you to go and use Article 26 and tell them, listen, you guys are playing a whole bunch of games here with me. You're taking away my human rights. You're using a notwithstanding clause in the act or regulation itself. And now you're saying that I'm obligated and I'm accountable to you. You stripped me of my rights through an operation of law, and now I'm coming back to get them. Article 26 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So what this is, again, in a global perspective, what this is saying is that the legislators of Canada and the legislators of the province, those who make the laws all across this land, they are supposed to be under obligation that when they make these rules and when they make these laws, that they listen to what the Charter says in Article 2 and 7 to 15. However, they don't. Instead of giving us our freedoms, our intrinsic rights, they strip them away by adding notwithstanding clauses in their regulation and statute. The legislator of Canada or of the province, when they're making rules for the driving, when you drive, in the Highway Safety Act or Highway Safety Code, okay, they're supposed to follow the Charter. That's what they're under the obligation, to follow that Charter. So the freedoms that are expressed in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms for the everyone should come out in their codes. But they don't. They don't make the code for the everyone, because they know that everyone can travel free, meaning the man, the human, in that capacity. But they don't make the regulation or the statute indicating that. They invoke a notwithstanding clause, and they remove the Charter, Article 2 and 7 to 15, I think it was exactly. And it removes the freedom of the everyone, of the human, to invoke his right. And they say, no, you're obligated to the statute. So through all this garbage, you have to find a way how to retake your rights back from them stripping you of it. Now it's very clear that it's the legislator of each province and of Canada who are invoking notwithstanding clauses and are removing our rights, our intrinsic rights. Now they're not supposed to have the power to do that, according to Article 32 and 33 of the Charter itself. But nevertheless, they do it. So when they do it, again, I'll state, it then becomes your responsibility now to notify them and claim what they are doing to you and reclaim your right back, because they've broken it through the legislator. All throughout their writings and their laws, you will see that when they're invoking the notwithstanding clause, when they invoke that, it's to strip you of your rights as a human being, and then they'll say that it's a fundamental principle of justice that's being used. A fundamental principle of justice. We should return that to, let's see what we could say, a fundamental principle to rip you off of what is intrinsically yours. That sounds better. This is why when you go to research and look into the regulations, the acts, the enactments, or the statutes themselves, you will constantly find a notwithstanding clause being placed in these articles. And every time you see in a regulation or an act a notwithstanding clause, that should be exactly where you go to look. That should be exactly where you go to decipher what's going on. Because by seeing those words being placed in an act or a regulation, it means they just perform their fundamental principle of law to remove your intrinsic right.